So we've saved this drawing, this model. It's called Dartmouth area beginning modeling of floor slab. So I'll save this out as a study that we're beginning to study the walls. So we have some fairly massively thick walls, and let's just quickly look. Okay, so one reference plane represents its exterior. Let's try another one. And then measure. Boy, 4 feet here. Let's call it 3 feet. There's some distortion in the drawing, but and maybe the exterior, it could be 4 feet. If you've ever looked at photographs of when the library was being built, there's some massive I think I have site photos. Yeah. All right, here's some pictures. Is that it? Live? Yeah. All right, so they didn't go about modeling it the way we did, right? They had to start from the ground up. So there could be some massively thick exterior walls there. Courtyard. It's a room upstairs under construction. Right. Base room, which is a large bulkhead. Crazy guy standing on top of the building. Let's choose a reasonable thickness and say we'll represent those walls with 3 foot. I'm going to start drawing on level 1. Let's create a type of wall. Generic 36 inch. We can change that later, right? We don't have to stick with it, but we need something massive to represent the exterior. We don't want to draw unconnected. We want to draw from level 1 up to level 2. And I'm going to draw location line is going to be finished face exterior. That allows me to draw in a clockwise direction. And I'm going to draw to the perimeter. Lines that we established. There are 4 walls. Look at our 3D model. Those are the walls I drew. Look at our section. All right. Maybe we want those walls to extend to grade. Well, let's think about that. Let's go to back to level 1. What other walls do we need? We need to enclose the courtyard, so we have to draw the interior walls. Now, my floor slab is occluding a view of the drawing beneath it. There's a couple things we can do. We can switch from the view control to wireframe, so we can see through everything. That makes it a little bit hard to see what's going on. Let's go back to hidden line. Another thing we could do is simply in Revit, model categories, to override the transparency. If we make floors, say 50% transparent, we can sort of see through the floors and still, it's kind of like X-ray mode in SketchUp. I'm going to continue drawing walls. I don't have reference plane for the exterior, so I'm going to maybe nice. Yeah, it'll snap to the end points of. Maybe now we want to switch to finish face interior, because in order to draw in the same direction, or I could draw the other way. Let's do that. So I'm closing all this space with the same massive walls. Right? Doesn't quite align with the drawing, but I'm not. Yeah. This is an existing building. It might be wise at this point to model those columns. Let's do that. Architecture column. Don't want to choose structural column. We want to use architectural column so that we can select from round. Those are round columns. If we don't have them loaded, we have to load round column. Round column. There it is. They're a bit wider than 24-inch. Will that do it? That'll be fine. Okay, there's something different going on at the corner, but we won't worry about that for now. Oh, make sure that they're from level up to level 2. Yeah. I can align all these afterwards. We also have the problem of we don't yet have a floor representation for the courtyard or the arcade. But these are fairly strong elements. Those are going to be pilasters, so those are probably square. We're going to need square columns as well. So when there's an engaged column in the wall, which there are at the opposite these columns in the arcade, being a little sloppy with this. Let's go ahead and select the 24 by 24 rectangular column. So that's probably what happens at the walls. Where else do the rectangular columns happen? They happen opposite each point at the arcade there. Kind of missed that one, didn't I? Let's make a mistake and just call that a rectangular column. The corner ones are probably rectangular. Right? Okay. So opposite any column. Let's see what this looks like in 3D. Column on my mouse. Let's go to the section. So columns are being drawn for level 1 to level 2. Actually, let's switch quickly to a wireframe. They don't go that high, right? They stop at about maybe 12 feet, and then there are arches that connect them with bolts, cross bolts on the underside of that arcade. For now, let's accept that as an approximation of what's going on level 1. There are many more columns in the space. There are some on the, in the entry when we get in there, but I don't want to get distracted. We started to model the columns in the courtyard because we're into representing the enclosure, interior, exterior, and enclosure. So, and that seemed to be a pretty strong element in the middle of the building. Let's go to level 2 and draw walls from level 2 to level 3, starting with the perimeter. Remember, the visibility graphics are particular to a view. So if I want to floors at 50% again, I got to set them in the view, just the visual representation of the floor, so I can see what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to draw walls. Level 2 up to level 3. Finish face exterior. Start at the intersection of my reference lines. even though my drawing, the image of the floor plan doesn't line up, my geometry, we have to commit to a point where the geometry, what do we do here? Yeah, so we're going to draw to the perimeter of the floor. I'm going to continue drawing the wall. This time I'm going to snap to that corner and draw in the opposite direction because finish face exterior. We still want to draw clockwise, otherwise I'd have to draw anti-clockwise. Just snapping to the endpoints of the floor. That section is going to have to move because it's inconvenient. You don't want to cut a section parallel to the wall. So see, I'm just enclosing the space. I haven't punched any openings into it as of yet. We'll have to deal with that in a separate problem. Go back and look at it 3D. My shadows. And the last thing we're going to do, we have to adjust that floor plate, right? Because if you look at the section, oh no, that's the third floor. Yeah, we need to draw that. So level 2 to level. Yeah. Okay. If you look at the section, that floor, the gable roof begins there, so it doesn't. The walls are going to have to be drawn not from 3 to the underside of the roof. Well, let's do that and we can adjust. So the exterior walls are a little lower. So let's go to level 3. Visibility graphics. Level floors presented at half transparency. Let's draw a wall. Oops. I know it doesn't line up with the drawing now, but there may be some artifact and some distortion in the plan drawing, but we're committing to the reference planes that we established. Now to enclose the interior, I'm just going to snap to the endpoint of the floor. Right around. Or for worse. We're committing to the floors we've already drawn. We can adjust them later. Endpoint. Let's go to 3D. All right. So what we're saying is that the exterior walls, those walls, go to the section, are going to be shorter. Four walls are selected. I'm going to change the top constraint. And offset the top by 5 feet, -5. Just for the exterior walls. Have to fix that floor plate. It extends beyond the roof. So let's look at 3D again. All right. Another thing that's really, really useful in Revit architecture is to duplicate a 3D view and use what's called a section box. Right now, we just have a default 3D view. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to turn on, let me rename this. Section box. Probably remember this from construction documents, maybe not. And turn on section box. Section box creates a box around all of creation there and allows us to sort of, bring in the boundaries, right, of the box so that we can interrogate the inside of the space. Right? It's a little bit primitive right now. But we can see what we've modeled and what's missing. So let's save this model, save as. Begin modeling slabs plus enclosures. Columns. A rather long and meaningful name, but we're basically organizing our geometry now. And now we can refine it. Let's go back to level 1. And talk about what we're missing. Okay, we have columns. We have some rather massive ones in the entry hall. We need a big round column. Columns, architecture column. I don't want structural. Architectural. Round columns, but now we need something more massive. I need 3 foot wide. Let's edit type, duplicate. 6. I don't know if it's 3 feet. I mean, it looks like it's bigger, but again, you can change it. It's much larger than that. That might be the base of it. At least we have a different type. And we're drawing from level 1 to level 2. Is that right? Notice it tries to infer alignment There's a lot of stuff, a lot of busy work going on over here. I'm not sure. Just gonna some columns. The exterior, there's some. I'm going to say that there's columns all around this, and then they've thickened up those walls somehow. For the most part, that's what's happening in there. The square columns in the periodical room, the catalog room, let's switch to the 24-inch rectangular. Appears to be one over there. Presumably, these are all in a line. So there's probably one against the wall. Those are openings, or window openings. So opposite the columns in the arcade would be pilasters in the walls. We know this from modeling, from drawing this in IDC. And there are going to be some limits to how we represent the arcade. For the most part, in the spirit of modeling the enclosed space, it's important to kind of adopt the attitude that you can model something approximately and change it later. So if we decide there's a better way of representing the system, it's probably in the corner, but we'll ignore that for now. Now there's probably something in the corner. So let's draw. Closure. Got some smaller round columns in those areas. Then again, those stacks are we witnessed in section there were some trays, so they're intermediate floors, so I'm not sure that it's going to be that helpful. Libraries always have stacks. Okay, let's look at this in 3D. Let's look at the section box. Remove, not escape or modify. And so all those columns are going to have to be shorter because there are arches that span them. We're going to have to think up a strategy of representing them, but we're going to deal with that later. Let's go to level 2. So we need a system of columns. What we're looking at are columns that are peeking through from the floor below. Right? So those columns, they don't exist in the big room over here. Looks like there are some fairly massive engaged those are window openings, right? Columns below. Architectural, let's re-invoke this 36-inch big round column. Now we're drawing from 2 to 3. Let's go into visibility graphics and change the wall transparency, walls, to 50%. So we can sort of see through the walls. Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to say the columns here are engaged in the wall, so we're going to make them square, rectangular, but let's create a type. It's 36 by 36. Depth is going to be 3 feet and the width is going to be 3 feet. I think they're more massive than that, but so I'm just representing what's engaged opposite their corner. Let's see symmetry that we conceive here to just sort of create things opposite. Dates room likely to have structure in the same sort of place. Not quite sure what I'm looking at here. Those are probably round. Well, I'm basically, all right, indiscriminately using columns here, but I just want to create, sort of the boundaries of that enclosure. There is a lot of vertical stuff going on over there. It's going to be roughly they may be round, right? But something's got to hold all that up. Now, might as well continue that language. Probably opposite those. This may not be correct, but it's going to give me approximately a line all of it up. The boundaries of that room. Let's look at 3D. Created something of a mess in there, but but what is it really when you think about it? If we're in that space, we're basically in a space that has a really tall, ceiling above and these vertical elements. So am I prototyping that? Am I successful in prototyping that? Let's go to level 1 and imagine, let's create a 3D view. 3D view, I'm going to place a camera. And here, looking in that direction. So is it meaningful to have that? Now it's somewhat difficult to perceive without the, sort of the walls that exist there and the stairs that are placed. But essentially, I'm looking at a really tall space. It's bound, right? I'm inside the building. Entry. So this will become a little more meaningful when we start to model the openings at the exterior. Back to level 1. We'll need some kind of strategy for dealing with openings, and I think some more vertical things that are missing in here, right? I think maybe that the next series of walls might be walls that are actually where these columns are engaged. So I'm at level 1. Let's draw from level 1 to level 2 these thickened walls, the walls that enclose the map room, catalog, periodical room, and the main entry, right? Perhaps this area over here where the stairs are as well. Architecture wall, 36-inch wall. Let's change to location line, center line, so we can sort of eyeball the wall that goes from here to there. Wall that goes from here to there. Let's change the visibility graphics of settings for walls in this view to be semi-transparent. Continuing to draw walls. Walls and columns, columns and walls. Coat room. Some thinner walls around here. This is all enclosed space. Okay. We could also, I wish there were like a quick and dirty X-ray mode. There isn't. You have to set visibility graphics. Created a 3D there. Let's duplicate this. And rename this 3D 50% transform. And change visibility graphics to, oops. Walls and floors. Because that's all we've drawn so far, right? columns, but let's see what that looks like. Let's turn off shadows here, that's confusing. Okay. The next lesson, let's look a little closely at the building and start to place some openings in there. And hopefully we'll make this all a bit more intelligible. So models, closures, columns, that's where we're at so far. File save.